This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Adam Morallee here in Birmingham. Adam, firstly, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Andy. Always good to be back in Birmingham, your hometown.
That's in my hometown, so everyone's got to come to me. If you want to do anything, you got to come through me. But here we are, the return of your man, Joyce. A lot of pressure involved with Saturday night because Cash Ali will come, he'll be game, but Joe's going to be looking to get back into that heavyweight mix. We've seen some big fights happening. I'm sure he wants to get back involved. Do you think people are overlooking slightly the challenge of Cash Ali?
Look, Joe hasn't overlooked this challenge of Cash Ali. Cash is he's just over there. He's game, but I think Cash is a certain level in the heavyweight division. You know, and Joe's got to be beating that level if Joe wants to go up and be where he was before. He beat Joseph Parker. He was one of the most feared heavyweights in the world, and he lost twice to Zhang. Joe is still an A-level, world-level heavyweight, and he needs to show that on Saturday.
People have questioned kind of a time since the Zhang defeat second time around, if maybe he's changed at all, if it's affected him mentally, emotionally. Have you seen any changes with Joe's personality in that time?
No, not at all. Look, Joe's always been his own man ever since I started managing him 6-7 years ago. Joe Joyce is his own man. He saw it in the press conference today. He was talking about his Christmas dinner. And he's not changed mentally. He's incredibly focused. Yeah, of course, he's gutted he lost. He came into camp and he's been ever so focused since, and he's really nailed down for this. Big shout out to Steve Broughton and Cam Goff, who are his strength and conditioning coach and his trainer for this fight. They've really stepped up, and I think Joe's in great shape actually.
Joe mentioned to me, obviously, he's training set up for this fight. Do you think the plan will be for those bigger fights to get back out to Vegas and still link up with Ismail Salas?
Absolutely. Look, Salas is a great coach, but nothing's out of the question. I think Steve Broughton's a great coach. I think Steve Broughton and Joe get on brilliantly, and I'd like to see that partnership continue.
In terms of Cash Ali on Saturday night, what does this fight bring to Joe?
I think he gets exposure on TNT, exposure on BT Sport. He's back to the British public. I want him to box in a way which ignites the excitement of the British public. And listen, people aren't going to demand him fighting anyone, but gets him back into that league where he then can go to Saudi, he can fight in England, he can fight against big names. That's what's got to be next for Joe.
Do you think with Joe as well, if he's successful on Saturday night, it could, not saying he's died out or he's burnt out, but certainly reignite that fire even more so within himself on the back of two tough defeats to really show him I enjoy this more than anything. I deserve to be involved in those big nights.
Look, Joe Joyce hasn't won a fight for 18 months, right? He's not won a fight, he's not had that feeling of winning, and he's had to deal with that feeling of losing twice. Unaccustomed to it. He's unaccustomed to losing. So yeah, I think it will give him a real shot in the arm when he wins on Saturday.
I know you can't take your eye off the ball, but looking towards the future, two fights which I'm sure people will probably link to Joe will be the Daniel Dubois rematch or potentially the Joseph Parker rematch. Joe's beaten both men twice, but both men have since gone on to do tremendous things with their career. Do you think we see either of those fights towards the back end of 2024?
I think Dubois very unlikely. My understanding is he doesn't want to fight Joe Joyce.
Do you know why that is?
Yeah, because he'd get beat. Joe's already cracked his eye socket. I don't think he wants that fight. If I was Daniel Dubois' manager, I wouldn't want that fight. Fair enough. Joseph Parker, though, I think very much could happen. Joseph Parker, I think, wants to avenge that defeat. He's had two phenomenal wins in Wilder and Zhang. Credit to him. And from my perspective, people were saying to me, do you want Zhang or Parker to win last Saturday? I don't want Joe Joyce to fight Zhang again. So I was happy that Parker won, and I'd love to see Joe v Parker. We don't know exactly what's going to happen after Undisputed 1. There's going to be an Undisputed 2, but we don't know what's going to happen after Undisputed 1. I think the belts will fragment, and it could be Joe v Parker for the WBO full title.
How much has Joe somewhat missed not being involved in those big heavyweight fights that have been taking place out in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, look, I mean, if Joe had beaten Zhang, he would have definitely been involved in that scene, right? But we've got to get him out there. We've got to introduce him to that market. But also, there's Saudi, but there's also the UK. I mean, I've been talking about different sorts of fights with the Warrens for Joe, and some of it involve him headlining in venues in the UK. So I think Saudi is amazing for boxing, generally, in lots of ways, but I think in particular, it's made the amount of big fights in the UK happening less. Okay, not a brilliant thing, but it means more people will go to those events. Taylor Catterall is sold out. You know, the British public want to see big fights, and I'd love to see Joe in a big fight in the UK.
just sticking with the theme of how the heavyweight mix is unfolding, what do you make of seeing how effectively styles do make fights? Obviously, Joe goes and beats Joe Parker. Parker beat Zhang, but Zhang had beaten Joyce. It is effectively styles make fights.
Someone actually said to me the other day, I can't claim credit for this, but that Zhang, Parker and Joyce are like rock, paper, scissors. I think Joe's rock, Parker's scissors and Zhang's paper.
It's a very good analogy there, Adam.
That's Harry. That's Harry from S-Jam.
Just away from all things those fights, one of the things which come out was some sparring footage from Mr. Martin Bakole, which would suggest from the clip that he put out, he got the better of sparring with your man Joe Joyce. What did you make of that? And then the tweet which he put with it, which was that UK heavyweights are avoiding him, and that is the reason why.
I think it's very poor form, to be honest. It's very poor form. I was there for that spar, and yeah, look, Joe gets hit. We all know Joe gets hit, and Joe did get hit by Martin in that spar. But that spar ended with Martin Bakole on his knees, puking up. Billy Nelson pulled him out. I mean, I wouldn't normally say this, but if he wants to open it up, let's be honest. Billy Nelson pulled him out the spar, and Martin claimed it was a dodgy hamburger. Joe Joyce beat the daylights out of him, and he quit in the sparring ring, claiming he was being sick from a dodgy burger. You can ask Martin and Billy that exact question, because that's what happened.
Have you spoken with them directly since? Have you reached out and said, why have you put this video out?
No, look, I don't know. People do what they do. I'm never going to go after someone and tell them that. People make their own decisions in life. I think it's poor form. It's not the kind of thing I do or I would let Joe do, because when you film sparring, you film it so that the teams can watch it, not that you share it online. I think it's a bit of a desperate move. I can understand he may feel desperate that he's not getting big fights, but I think it's a step too far.
Adam, I appreciate your time as always. I'm leaving now to obviously get back to the team before they all leave you. Thank you for speaking to me.
Cheers.